Okay. Well, welcome everyone. Happy Tuesday. Happy to have everyone here. Welcome. This is the New Mexico Minority Business Development Agency. We're hosting this webinar, very important today. It's called HR Essentials for Small Businesses, Mastering Recruitment and Onboarding. And as a reminder, this is a recorded webinar, so it will be posted on the New Mexico Minority Business Development Agency channel. That way you can rewatch it, so you don't have to be taking notes while you're on the webinar. You can really just focus and then be ready to ask any questions to Francine. So today we're going to have Francine Campos, expert in HR, who's really excited about this presentation. Again, if you are a business owner that have questions about HR, after attending this webinar, please email us and we're happy to connect you with Francine, and you will get hours of free consulting with her. That way you can go through all of your questions and have a clear state of mind and not be stressing about it at night and be able to sleep. Also, we're going to have many other webinars coming up. On Tuesdays and Thursdays is usually when we have our webinar, so feel free to go to our website here, nmbda.com, and then you can go to the calendar page and just sign up for any calendar that sounds interesting to you. I'm also going to invite David Avalos with the SBDC, the Small Business Development Center, to share a little bit about the work they do.
Hello, everyone, and thank you all for having me here. So again, my name is David Avalos. I'm with the Small Business Development Center here in Southern Park. We are located in southern part of New Mexico. At the Small Business Development Center, we are dedicated to supporting entrepreneurs and small businesses owners. We offer a range of services to help you start, grow, and succeed on your business endeavors. Our services include personalized business consulting, where experienced advisors work with you one-on-one. So, at the SBDC, we can attend, host workshops. We provide training, one-on-one trainings on various topics relevant to specific small business needs. These workshops also cover areas for business plan development, financial analysis, digital marketing. Pretty much we offer all these services are for free. It doesn't cost anything. We also, at the SBDC, we have an office in Las Cruces and Southern Park. This is our newest location. We cover up to truth or consequences. And again, our services are completely free, confidential, and they are tailored to the specific needs. So that's what I can share with the Small Business Center. You can locate us at Southern Park or Las Cruces. That's what I got for today.
Thank you so much, David. It's a great partner, SBDC across the state, but then also in southern New Mexico. Very good. Now we're going to have our great speaker, Francine Campos. Take it away.
Hello, everyone. Okay, I'm just going to share my screen very quickly. And let me know if everybody sees the slides. We good to go? All right, great. At any point, if you can't hear me or if the slides get a little delayed, just let me know and we'll make sure to fix that up. So like Gabriela said, I am so excited to be here just to kind of talk about HR overall through the next 4 sessions. But today we're really going to focus on recruitment and onboarding. I, Francine Campos, come to this presentation. I have over 20 years experience in HR. Most recently, I opened my own HR consulting company. So I had a lot of support from the SBDC, just support from the whole state. And it's really great to be on this side of things as well. But most recently, like I said, I opened my business. I'm really focusing on small business and nonprofits, just helping them provide them HR services. So today's presentation really is going to be focusing on recruiting and onboarding. First off is like kind of what is recruiting and onboarding? As small business owners, this is probably something that we don't think about till it's here in our face and we need to hire. We also are going to talk about why recruitment and onboarding matters. Why should we put focus to that? And with that, we'll jump into recruiting more in detail as well as onboarding, and then we'll leave some time for question and answers at the end. So let's just jump into it. What is recruiting and onboarding? The best way for me to explain it is recruiting is the process of finding and attracting candidates to fill your positions. There could be times when you, as a small business, you have many hats, many positions to fill, but you come to a point where you're like, okay, it's time to hire. So really everything that has to do with that, from sourcing, creating the job description, everything till making the offer, is considered recruiting. The next step is onboarding. So onboarding is a process of integrating new hires into your organization. So training, assessments, new hire orientation, everything to get them on board, because it's just as important. Finding that candidate is making sure they're integrated with your culture. So why do they matter? Again, recruitment is critical for company growth. If you don't have the right people doing the right jobs, you're probably not going to grow. It's really as simple as that. Hiring the right person really allows that company to expand their capabilities. Like I said, you're a small business owner, maybe you are spending a lot of your time on sales when you really want to spend it on, other opportunities for the business. So you really want to expand that business, and that's how you're going to do it, is by hiring. And again, onboarding matters because it really integrates those new hires into the company culture. Really understanding the company, where they're going to work with, how people act, what's acceptable, what's not. It really drives the success of that new hire. And it's almost like if you have these expectations that you're not sharing, they're not going to really be properly onboarded, and that might lead to problems in the future. So now let's jump into recruitment, the nuts and bolts of finding, hiring the right person for your company. I thought this was an interesting quote, just something from Jeff Bezos. And this is not from Jeff Bezos now. This is when he started Amazon. And I thought it was so important, especially where he was in the company. At the time that he had this quote, he had about 120 employees. So acquiring the right talent is the most important key to growth. Hiring was and still is the most important thing we do. That is still on the Amazon website. It drives the companies, it drives all companies, local, small companies, big, huge companies like Amazon. Focusing on acquiring the right person really make all the difference within your business. Okay, so this is the recruitment process. It looks like a lot, but we will go through each step a lot more in detail. So this is just an overview of kind of what, from step 1 to onboarding, the last step, what it looks like. So defining the hiring needs, creating that job posting, advertising the role, screening applicants, setting up interviews, assessments if you need it at times, reference and background checks. We'll talk about a little bit when to do those, when it's appropriate to do so. And then making an offer, what should be included in the offer and what shouldn't be. And then, of course, onboarding we'll go through a lot more in detail. So step 1, determining those job responsibilities, kind of going back to what I initially said, as a small business owner, you will be tasked with this. At some point, you will be asked, like, at what point should I hire? It could be an assistant, or it could be a high-level person. This is the time that we have to define the hiring needs. So anytime I work with clients, we really focus on, can we hire an intern, or are we at a point where we need to hire like a vice president? We really have to identify that, but also really look at the experience that we're looking for. How much money do we have to pay for this person? If we don't have a big budget, then are we willing to hire an intern and kind of work their way up? There's just so many things to determine what you need. But this is the time to do it. In the beginning of the process, you already know you need to hire. Now it's to work on the details of that. So step 1, really creating that job posting. We really want to define the roles. We want to describe the position that we're looking for, any required skills or responsibilities that they will be responsible for. We want to be as transparent as possible, only because we really want to give them a clear just view of what this position will entail. Also, we want to highlight the company culture. The best part of how to attract people to your company is highlighting the company culture. How is it to work with you? What are the company values? What is the work environment? Is there some hybrid options, which is a huge question now in recruiting? Can I work in the office a few days a week? Just anything that would help attract people to your company. And sometimes as small business owners, we're not even sure what that culture is, but it will start to create itself just naturally. And that's what you want to highlight. Why do you want to work for me? And then of course, highlighting that just the hiring process, explaining that. I think it's really important as a candidate, been on the other side, let them know what to expect. You know, should they expect a call back from you by the end of the week? Should they not? Just everything when you're planning to hire, everything involved with that hiring process. I always say it's better to be transparent in the beginning than saying, oh, sorry, I didn't call you, you didn't get the job, or you did get the job. Just be transparent from the get-go. I did put a sample job posting in here just to give everybody just a view of what it could look like. Of course, they look different. They also look different on different platforms. So we have like, social media recruiting, which we will talk about. This is just a job posting that we created for a company just on their website. Pretty simple. You see job description and the required skills. Usually it's just like, yeah, apply now. And usually it's just a resume sent to the hiring manager. It could be as simple as this. You definitely don't want to highlight anything that has nothing to do with the job that could have any call out. So, example, like just job description, simple, required skills, simple, apply now, where to apply. And I would be happy to create these with anybody on this call. Just, when you're ready, let's talk about like kind of what that looks like. Advertising the role, I spoke about that a little bit ago. So there's so many options to advertise roles now, which is really great and much more cost effective than even a few years ago. So LinkedIn, for example, it costs about $250 to post on LinkedIn, but not everybody has to post on LinkedIn. There's certain positions that you would want to do so. A lot of people are posting on just social media. Their company has a LinkedIn page and just almost a QR code, something simple. Employee referrals, which is a big, huge part of recruiting, especially nowadays. So a lot of the clients that I work with have employee referrals. So it could be, if they work for us for 30 days, they get $50. If they work for us for a year and they're in good standing, you get $1,000. Anything to drive those employees to your company, but having a referral from employee kind of takes a little bit of the gray out because one of the employees is willing to vouch for that employee. So it kind of gives them a step in. Of course, the job boards, like I spoke about, LinkedIn, Monster is still being used. Some agencies have their own job boards. Campus recruiting is great. I think it's such a great way, especially in New Mexico, to just really drive that recruiting everything and really driving our students to get into our economy and get into our businesses. So I am heavy on that, especially with interns. There's an accounting controller role that we were filling, and we hired an intern from UNM, and it's working out really great. So we saved some money there, but we also gave an entire career path for someone that just graduated from UNM. So very great. The last thing that I wanted to add in there is there are recruitment agencies that will do all of this for you from start to finish. They will present candidates just to you. You pick, you pay. That's what I always say. So with recruitment agencies, it's typically a percentage of the new hire's first year's salary. So to make it easy, we'll say they're making $50,000 and the recruitment agency will fill the role for you for 10%. You're going to give them $5,000 off the bat. And of course, it sounds high, but you didn't have to worry about the recruitment process. A lot of positions that are used for this are high-level positions. They're maybe a president or vice president or even a controller of a company. Another reason why someone would use a recruiting agency is if it's a confidential search. So maybe you want to replace somebody at your company, but you don't want them to know. So that's another reason why you would use a recruitment agency. And again, they're great. They're just very costly. Okay, on to screening the applicants. So you're about 3 steps in. We've created your hiring needs, created the job description. We advertised the role. Now we have resumes to look through. So first step, we're just going to look through the resumes, see if they have the experience that you're looking for. Really, that's what it is. If there's a cover letter, of course, read through the cover letter. Usually that's just an overview of their resume and see if they're a good fit. I typically kind of group resumes, A, B, C, A being top candidates, B being okay, and C probably we won't move forward with. NEA candidates, I typically move on to phone screening. So really that's just, a brief phone call with them just to screen them. You could ask some brief questions about usually their experience. Usually you just want to kind of screen them to kind of take one more step, because your goal is not to present a lot of candidates. You really just want to narrow it down for the hiring manager or yourself as a business owner. Once they pass the phone screening section, they will go on to interviews. A lot of people prefer in-person interviews, but right now, especially in light of COVID and everything that happened there, a lot of people are doing online interviews, Zoom, Teams, just being a lot more flexible. So I always throw that in there, just be flexible with your candidates. The candidate pool is very small in New Mexico. So when you get to a point when you're like, okay, they want to have maybe a Zoom interview, but I need to meet them in person. Just think about that a little bit and be a little flexible. Of course, it's absolutely important to meet them in person, but it just kind of where they fall into the process. Okay, so interviewing. So now, you screened all resumes. Now you're going to be interviewing. I always want to spend a little more time here because there are a lot of legal ramifications around interviewing. So again, what can you ask and what can you not ask? A lot of people are always very surprised by that. Being prepared, meeting with your hiring team before the interview takes place is always recommended. Another thing is I would never interview on my own. I would always have 2 people to interview just in case something comes up. Of course, take notes during your interview, be friendly, conversational tone. We all have interviewed for positions. We all know how nervous we get. So just have, the candidate calm down, ask open-ended questions, have your questions ready, have your hiring team ready to go. The worst thing is trying to figure things out, minutes or actually during the interview. I feel like we've all been there too. So take the time to prepare. And the interview will go fine. So here are those questions that we were going to hone in a little bit. So questions that you could legally ask. Of course, you could ask, are you legally authorized to work in the US? Basic question, absolutely, you can ask it, especially if you have an E-Verify program at your companies, but also we'll talk about new hire paperwork. There is a specific paper that they need to fill out to show that. Also, do you have any responsibilities that interfere with work? Sometimes there's childcare issues or maybe transportation issues. So you'll see in interviews, they might ask, do you have reliable transportation to get to and from work? Or is there anything keeping you from coming to work 8 to 5? You could definitely ask those type of questions. Something else that I like to add is you could also ask them if they need any accommodations. That's something to keep in mind. There's sometimes people that come to interview with us and then you could visibly see that there's maybe a disability. You have the right as an employer to ask, like, what accommodations or if any would you need? The reason why is because you want to prepare for that new hire if there are accommodations. And there is accommodation process that you do need to follow. So don't be afraid to ask those questions. Absolutely not. You want to dig in to make sure they're a good fit. These questions you want to steer far from. So I always say, any personal things, just don't ask. That's the best way. Just, and I put some things on this presentation. So of course we have age, we have your marital status, we have your family status. That includes, planning for kids or do you have kids? Where your family's from. What is your religion? Again, it all comes back to these personal topics that just cannot be asked during interviews at all. If a candidate voluntarily gives you this information, it's fine, perfect, fine. But again, you don't want to ask any topics or give into any of those topics that might be considered discrimination later if you don't hire that employee. You would hate to say, oh, how old are you? And that employee says, oh, I'm 65. Later on, you make a decision about not hiring him. It didn't have anything to do with his age, but you open that door up for discrimination due to that question around age, regardless if he was hired or not due to that. So you just don't want to put yourself in that space. I put some examples of questions, of course, to ask and do not ask. Very simple, but what interests you about this role? Of course, definitely ask that. Are you married? No, can't ask that. Do you have kids? How old are you? Those are a no-no. You could get around it a little bit. Like I put in, are you over the age of 18? A lot of jobs require you to be over the 18. So you don't have to ask them per se how old they are, but more specific on if they're after an age group. Okay. Okay, so pre-employment screening, I think this is really important to note. Some of these can happen before an offer is made and some cannot. So we'll talk about that a little bit. So assessments, job-related skills, sometimes that's, typing class or typing tests. It could be, we're going to pretend we're going to call you and pretend we're going to be an irate customer. That's an assessment, and that happens prior to the offer being made. You also want to make sure you check references. I always say that's a big part of this because you really want to get a good overview of what type of employee they are. It could be professional references. That's typically what I like to stay on, but sometimes people provide some personal references as well, and that's okay. Reference checks will happen before the offer is made. Driving records, we have a client that has a whole fleet of roofers out there. And in order to be a project manager, you have to be able to drive in New Mexico. That would happen prior to the offer being made because we got to make sure that he fits the role and he has the basic, just the basic fit for that role specific. So again, that would happen before the offer is made. The next three categories are going to be happening contingent upon an offer. And what that means is here's an offer, but the offer is only valid if you contingent upon these passings. So that means if you pass your drug screening, the job is still yours. If you pass a credit check, the job is still yours. But if not, the offer is going to be rescinded and it's no longer active. So usually drug screenings happen after the offer. Any type of credit checks, and that is specific to position. So if you're hiring a controller or someone in accounting, that's typically when you check for credit. You cannot check credit if the position doesn't kind of allow that. If they're going to be touching money, you want to make sure they're good with money. That's really the basis. And then background checks, again, post offer. You'll be starting on this day contingent upon a drug screening, credit check, or background check. And those again happen after. So there's always some questions, what happens before or after. But again, if you have questions, feel free to reach out. And then the exciting part, so you've made it through the entire recruiting process. You created the job description, you screened, you interviewed, there was assessments, they passed the background, everything's good, we're making an offer now. So you want to gather everything regarding that job. How much are they going to be making? Any type of bonus that they might be getting or not, anything. Paid time off, sick leave. This is where you would put in the information of the New Mexico sick leave law. Any type of benefits that includes, medical, dental. If you don't have benefits, that's okay. You just have to indicate that on the offer. So I put an offer letter example in here just to give a real simple view of what it could look like. But you could see it's just, here's the offer. You have the offer details in the middle. You have the salary, any type of leaves that they have, like PTO or sick leave, and then any type of benefits. Everything, including their schedule, needs to be included in the job offer. It's very important. Just think of it as a document that a new hire, everything they wanted to know about this new position is within this document. They really shouldn't have any questions after reading that. And the reason why, too, you want to keep in mind is if you have to go to an attorney for any which reason, they're probably going to ask you for what was the offer letter, what kicked off their employment, no matter what case it is. So you really want to make sure everything is in this offer letter. Like, again, everything you need to know about that job is there. When do I start? What's my manager's name? Everything to do with your new position. Okay, so now it's the exciting part. It was already exciting, but now we get to onboard our person. So we spent so much time, energy, and money on finding that person. The onboarding is so unbelievably important because all of that time and money that was spent, now you want to integrate them into the company so they don't leave. You want them to feel included. It's tough being the new hire. We've all been on that side. So think of things that could have made it a better experience for you. And that's what you want to do for your employees. Everything, and we'll go again more in detail of that. But onboarding is so unbelievably important. I put in another quote that I thought was really important. And this is from a local owner of a local company here in Albuquerque. So while proper onboarding is often seen as an expense, I view it as an investment. It's an investment in the success of our new hires and the long-term growth of our company. It really is such an important part of this process. You could spend thousands and thousands of dollars and your new hire just doesn't show up because they didn't feel properly onboarded, or maybe the recruiter didn't call them to tell them when they should show up. Little things like that really make a big, huge impact. Just share a little story that just happened this past week. We spent so much time filling a sales role for one of the clients. We presented them. It went great. Onboarding happens by the company. She lasted one day, and she didn't feel like she was properly onboarded, but she really didn't want to give the company a chance to redeem themselves. She felt you should have onboarded me properly. It didn't happen, so I'm going to move on to the next company. And unfortunately, it kind of is that way out there. You really need to focus on making sure that that person feels just fully integrated. And again, we'll go through some ideas and some process of how you could do that. So here's a little, just process chart of the onboarding process. And again, we'll go in more in details on each one. So we're going to create the plan. So they've accepted the offer. Now we're going to probably start digging into what that is. And usually this is the HR team or recruiter, small business, probably the owner. Really, the focus here is just creating a plan. What are you going to be doing on the first day? What are you going to be doing on that first week? I usually like to write it down just so they have something to refer to. It also includes HR onboarding. So all the new hire paperwork that takes, reviewing the handbook, a tour of the office, anything that has to do with getting you into the system and knowing people around the office typically happens during the HR onboarding phase. Then we have training, which is, just getting them on board. What does that look like? What do we focus on the first week versus 6 months? And then feedback. It's so important. Even after this presentation, we're going to ask you for feedback. It's so important for the growth of anybody going through this. But you want to check in with your new hires. You want to make sure it's going well, day one, week one, week 3, like whatever works for you and your culture of the company, you want to make sure and do that. But do not start a new hire and just be like, okay, you're on your way now. Let's check in a month to see how you're doing. It doesn't work like that anymore. You really need to be engaged with your new hires. So the onboarding plan, which is created prior to the new hire starting. So we have, where are they going to sit? Do we have a computer there? Do we need any other equipment, cell phone? Usually we work with the IT department to get their email set up. Any type of credentials that they need to get into the network, any building access like key cards, things like that. Your goal is to give the new hire everything they need on their first day. You don't want to say, oh, here's your desk, but your computer's not ready, or here's your computer's ready, but you don't have access into the network. That's frustrating. You just want to make sure they are fully integrated or fully set up, before they start. So when they walk in, everything's ready to go. And that includes scheduling time for HR onboarding, which is really the biggest part of this, is all the paperwork that goes into onboarding a new hire. And we'll go through that as well. I threw in some onboarding activity ideas. A few of our clients do these things and they're always a good time. And it just makes them feel welcome. And it's a fun thing, just a fun thing. But of course, lunch with the team, I think that's pretty basic one. You know, typically a new hire, we just get lunch for maybe the manager, maybe the team, but just again, getting to know them outside of this new hire phase. A welcome package, which is always exciting, you know, logoed materials, maybe notebooks or t-shirts or hats. Sometimes it's just a plant, just something to let them know you're happy that they're there and you welcome them to the company. And then lastly is, you know, a tour, an office tour. It seems so simple, but it makes all of the difference to the new hire. Most recently we had a new hire scavenger hunt, and I thought it was fun. I didn't know how it was gonna be taken, but it was 5 questions and it was really basic. Like, where do you find office pens? If you had to refill ink for the printer, where would you find that? So it was fun, but also they learned where things in the office actually were. So it was great. These are just, you know, some ideas. Again, you don't have to do these, but it's just a great way to get them, again, more integrated into your company. So now that you have them set up, you have their computer ready, they're on board, fully integrated. Now they're spending their first day with the HR team or the business owner, and you're going to start to go through what HR onboarding looks like. So at this point, you definitely want to highlight the company mission, the company work culture, especially what you did in the recruiting phase. But now that they're sitting in front of you, you really want to highlight those things. Sometimes new hire orientation has different aspects of it. Sometimes executives come in and kind of talk about that company mission. And then they leave, and then HR jumps in. Sometimes it's all HR. It really is just focused on what your culture is. And then, you know, the paperwork, which will go in, just tax paperwork, everything again to get them in the system. And then the big one is the handbook review. So I suggest every company owner, regardless of their size, has a handbook. It really is just a guide for all policies, expectations, just guidelines of how it is and what to expect working for your company. That handbook you will have through the entire lifetime of your company, and it will only get larger the more employees that you have. But it is a great, you should have it. I've seen it work in the favor on the legal side of employers many, many times, because it clearly lists those policies and expectations, and then you have them sign off on it. So during that onboarding, which takes many hours, you are going to be going through that handbook and not skimming through the handbook, but actually going through page by page to ensure your new hire knows what to expect. So some new hire paperwork, typically you have a package and it includes all of these things. It differs from every company. There are specific forms that will be in every package, no matter where you live, no matter how big your company is. And that's really like the tax forms, any type of company policies, like the handbook that they sign off on, the I-9 form that I spoke about in the beginning of the presentation. So this form is, they bring 2 forms of ID, and this just verifies that they're eligible to work in the United States. And the reason why I list this is because you have 3 days to complete that from when your new hire starts. There's not much regulation on any other forms. Usually though, it's just company pushed, but this is federally pushed. So the I-9, you let them fill it out on their first day, and then they have 3 days to bring 2 forms of ID to help support that I-9. If they don't, they're not eligible to work in the United States. At that point, you have to make a decision if you want to move forward or not. But I always highlight in there because there are audits on I-9 forms all the time. And it's just one of those things that you don't really want to mess with. The form itself needs to be completed a specific way. So again, if you have any questions whatsoever on how to fill out that form properly, please reach out to me. I'll be happy to help you. I will also be happy to audit your I-9 forms if you have any, just to make sure everything's good, just in case you do get audited. because typically they will come to the door and say, hi, you're being audited today. They don't really give you a heads up. But we could talk about that a lot. So again, new hire paperwork, basic information. Your goal is to get all the information and get it into your payroll system so they could get paid, and also give them a great understanding of any policies and that they have. So any questions around those policies. And then of course, you know, the basic direct deposit, anything W-4 state tax forms, those are the forms that we need to get them into the payroll system. I spoke about this a little bit, but just another overview for the employee handbook. You know, it has the introduction, usually a welcome letter from someone in upper management, usually the owner or CEO, just welcoming them to the company. You know, the code of conduct, which is just expectations and behaviors that you expect your new hire to comply with. And this includes harassment policies, you know, putting in allowing the handbook to say we do not allow harassment of any kind in our workplace. Having that in your code of conduct, which is your handbook, is very important. It also talks about compensation, not per se how much money you'll be making, but more like when you'll be getting paid. How much is overtime paid at? Are there bonuses? When to expect a raise, if any? Time off, including vacation time, sick leave, holiday. If you offer any type of bereavement leave, that's where it will be in the handbook as well. And it also lists all the benefits that your company offers. And of course, the policies, any workplace policies that you have. Typically your handbook, you want to update that once a year. So I said it's the lifetime of the company. You're going to have this handbook. It will just evolve just like you will as a business owner. And again, I'd be happy to help anybody with this. It's great when you do it in the beginning stages because you kind of have a basis of where the handbook, just where it is. And then after that, it's just adding, you know, new laws, or maybe you updated your mission, vision, values, or just maybe you just want to change it up. You have that, but you also have the basis. But again, if you need help with that, you can let me know. And then new hire training. So again, we spoke about this. It is so important to ensure that your new hire is getting structured training. You know, I always say structured because I think it's really important not to just say, go spend time with that person for the next 2 weeks and learn everything they're doing because you're replacing them. I think it's much more, it's just a lot better when you have some type of structured schedule. You know, week 1, you're going to focus on this, you're going to attend these meetings, and then check in with them. How's it going? Do you need more training? Is there any type of outside training that you're looking for that would help you better do your job? Anything that help them become more productive in their new role is what we want to provide. Sometimes it just takes time, you know, to get them on board, but you just want to make sure that they have their training that they properly need to be successful in their role. I put an example of a new hire training schedule in here. Again, this is just an example, but week 1 to 2, you know, really focusing on that onboarding, that HR onboarding, getting to know people, getting to know your workspace, just learning everything there is to know about the company. And I put 1 to 2 weeks, but it could be 1 to 2 days. It does not have to be that long. Week 1 to 4, getting trained on the systems and the tools that that company uses. And that's, you know, the biggest focus is how do you do it? You already hired them. You know that they know how to do the job. Now teach them how to do it at your company. And again, I have weeks 1 to 4. That's more typical, about a month to get on board with the systems. And then month 1 to 3, really focusing on that onboarding, developing those job skills. Again, just more in-depth training on becoming the best person that they can in their new role. And I would like to know if you're hiring an intern that doesn't have any experience, this training schedule will look a lot different than you hiring, we'll say, an HR manager that has some experience. You might not have to check in with them as often with the training side. And then the most important part, you know, I think with everything we spoke about, none of it makes sense if it wasn't done right. And the only way we're going to know that is getting feedback from the new hire. You know, you want to ask for feedback as much as you can early in the process, as often as you can, even if it's just passing by and saying, how are you? How did things go? Yesterday was your first day. What was your favorite part of the day? What could we work on? Anything will make the process better for that new hire, but also it's great to give them a chance to be heard. I always say that's such a great part. Make it easy to give feedback, you know, QR codes, anonymous surveys, maybe one-on-ones. And that's just a meeting that you have one-on-one once a week, once a month, however that works. You want to make it easy, 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 easy. Do you need to translate it to a different language? However it is to get the feedback that you need. Again, asking open-ended questions is always great because you get a little more detail versus the questions that already give you an answer to pick from. Still great information, just you get a little more in-depth information on open-ended questions. And then lastly is promise that you're going to, whatever feedback they give you, that it's going to be actionable. You know, if they come to you and say, I don't feel like I didn't get enough training on Dataforma, which is a construction software, listen to them and help them. Don't say, oh, well, I hope you get that training when you need it. Don't, you know, make action, promise action. Again, this is a new hire. This is probably one of your first or second interactions with this new hire. Don't let them down. If they're coming to you, it's already hard enough that they're coming to you to share feedback. Take it and make improvements upon it. Please follow through. It's such a big part of this. If you don't follow through, it kind of is like, why are you doing all of this? You know, you really want to make sure of what they're saying is they're being heard. And that's my presentation today. We did leave some time for questions, and I was really hoping if anybody has any questions, you could put it in the chat.
Yes, thank you so much, Francine. Super
Of course,
helpful
thank you.
information. And then also, it's true that the presentation is going to be available, right? The
Yes,
slide?
ma'am. Yes.
Yeah. So very helpful information, especially because there's so many templates for different items and timelines. So thank you for putting all of that together. So while
Yes.
people are thinking through their questions, if there's any, I'm just going to launch the poll. And hopefully people can have a second to just input the evaluation. I wish I could just click excellent, but I don't have access to it because I'm the host.
Thank you.
So hopefully the attendees can, check in. And other than that, people, if you have questions on the Q&A, please add it. Yes, I agree.
Are we supposed to do that poll?
If you can, David, but I don't think you can because you're a co-host. So,
No.
Okay,
I just
very good.
wanted to make sure.
Very good. Well, I'll end it right now. And if there's no additional questions for Francine at this moment, just a reminder that she will be offering her services free of charge for MBDA clients. If you have any of those questions related to how to put the letter, the compensation, the forms, anything whatsoever, questions to think about interview, whatever it might be related to HR, Francine is your person.
Yes.
So, so yeah, please email us and we're happy to connect you with her, and then we'll find time that makes sense for you. And if not, we will see you all at the next topic. Do you remember what the next topic is, Francine?
I'm not sure. It's HR.
Yeah, exactly. I have it. Okay, it's navigating legal essentials and effective documentation for navigating HR compliance. Interesting topic. Very good.
Awesome.
Well, we
Well,
will end here. Everyone have a great afternoon. Again, this will be posted on the YouTube channel, so you can come back and refer it to it. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.